This is the Rebel HR Podcast, the podcast about all things innovation in the people space. I'm Kyle Rode. Let's start the show. All right, Rebel HR community, we are joined with an awesome guest. Ashley Thorson is here. This is going to be a really fun conversation. Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, we are excited to have you. It took a little bit of coaxing to get you in the hot seat, but I really appreciate you being open to it. So I had the opportunity to meet Ashley last year, actually in a philosophy class, which I was saying, what a perfect class to be taking if you're going to go into human resources, which is philosophy. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing now after graduation.
Yeah. So I graduated from the University of Northern Iowa. Go Cats. In human resources and philosophy double major, and I minored in ethics. And now I am working at Shazam in Des Moines as a human resource representative. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
Awesome. So welcome to the career. Is it what you expected when you were studying to go into human resources?
Not quite, but in a good way.
Okay.
There's more unexpected things, but they're exciting, like things that I didn't, necessarily think that would entail, the profession would entail until I got into it. So it was good.
Yeah, I've always kind of joked, but it's half joking, but like HR is like the catch-all. It's like, so you have this job description, right, that you think you're going to do.
Yep.
And then you have all this random stuff that happens and people are like, well, give it to HR because I don't know who should.
Yeah.
Because it has something to do with people, kind of.
Right.
So tell me, as you have gotten into your role and, obviously you have a passion for understanding, how people think and human behavior and kind of the philosophy behind that.
Yeah.
What are some like insights or aha moments as you have shifted into the world of work from the world of your collegiate study?
That's a good question. I think so. With my philosophy background, I love just seeing how people tick and just kind of how they work, their personality wise. So a lot of the personality tests type things that we do, I think are super interesting. We do the predictive index.
Sure.
We always have a session for new managers, like once a quarter ish. And it's just really fun. You just get to learn about how people work and how they work with each other.
Absolutely. And PI, that takes me back. We used to do that. So, but in all of those, kind of those assessments and the work to understand what makes people tick and what impacts human behavior, I think is really fascinating. So you obviously you took a lot of time kind of studying some of the work of the great philosophers, and you warned me, don't ask me who my favorite philosopher is. So I won't.
I don't have one.
I won't ask you. Well, there is no great philosopher. How about that? That would be like a good
philosophical question.
Response, right? Like, well, nobody knows anything. So there is no good. Anyways, but I am interested why that was of interest to you, and ultimately why you focused on going into HR, having that as one of your interests.
Yeah. So I started. I learned about philosophy through ethics classes. Actually, I did a religion and ethics class in college, and it was taught by a philosophy professor. And we did a lot of writing in that class, and I love writing too. So, and he approached me and said, "Hey, I think you should look at majoring in philosophy." And I was like, at the time I was majoring in accounting, and that was not good.
the old accounting to HR pivot. A tale as old as time.
Classic. So, about the time that I switched my major to HR, I switched it to philosophy as well. So, I just thought, they go together in ways that people don't always think about. Like, it's just the intricacies behind people and like the critical thinking aspects of it. So I find that really interesting. So
absolutely. And I think, what's fascinating about that in general, first of all, I agree. A lot of my job is trying to understand human behavior and why people did things, and trying to, make sure that we're creating, great places to work, and but ultimately it comes down to the question of what do people actually want and why. Right. And I think that's, it's just a fascinating background. So as you've been, in the world of work here recently and getting to know your organization, getting to know your job, what do you feel is one of the key roles as an HR representative that you need to make sure that you fulfill to make a great employee experience at your organization?
I think one thing that's super important for that is just being a positive person and having like a positive demeanor towards everybody, because HR can be kind of scary for people in the workplace. So just kind of reassuring that like you are there for them and you're a kind person and do things in a kind way, I think is super important, and it's going to draw people in. So
absolutely. And I think it's one of those areas that we don't talk about enough, but just HR has some dark side to it, right? There's some stuff that's just not fun.
Right.
It's scary for people. It's hard for people.
Yeah.
It is like going into the principal's office sometimes and or getting a traffic stop, but having that level of approachability and kindness is so critical. And I think many listeners would probably agree with this. It's easy to lose that as well if you've been in the profession for a long time. So a good reminder to all of us to keep that to the forefront and focus on the humanity. At that point. So thank you for that. So I'm curious as you think about human resources and you think about your career, and you're obviously in a job where you get to see a lot of different aspects of human resources. Where do you see your career path going? What excites you or interests you as you continue to build your career?
A lot of things, but I feel like the goal would be to kind of move up to more of like a manager type role in human resources. So ultimately, maybe VP of human resources. Big goal. Just move up that ladder. I just think,
you can do it.
Thank you. I hope so.
It'll be fun. Yeah, and I think what's interesting about your background and your interest is if you continue to stay curious and focused on what makes people tick, why do behaviors exist, why do certain things happen at an organization, and then ultimately how can you change and innovate to make it a better place to work. That's essentially that entire job, right? So I think you're probably on the right path. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is maybe new into the profession or is maybe looking for some inspiration in the field of human resources? What would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but just staying curious, I think, and just being a sponge. That was one of the things that I was told as an intern, actually, with Shazam, and just to soak up as much knowledge and information as you can and ask questions constantly, and just to, build up whatever it is, that all of the skills, the knowledge, the abilities, things like that. So
absolutely. I love that.
Curious.
I love that. That's actually like kind of the theme today from all of our podcast guests. So it's really interesting. So, so last question I have for you. So the name of this conference that we're at is called the Great Reset. So what does that mean to you?
I think that's a good question. With the thought of like reset, it makes me think of, employees that experience burnout, things like that, because that can be a common theme in the workplace, and just trying to eliminate that. So I think just reminding ourselves that we need to, and employees need to reset, make sure that we're taking care of ourselves first before we can, help the company.
Absolutely. I love that perspective. And, I think, put your oxygen mask on first, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. All right. We will leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great job. I told you this was going to be easy.
All right. That does it for the Rebel HR podcast. Big thank you to our guests. Follow us on Facebook at Rebel HR Podcast, Twitter at Rebel HR Guy, or see our website at rebelhumanresources.com. The views and opinions expressed by Rebel HR Podcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any of the organizations that we represent. No animals were harmed during the filming of this podcast.
baby.